Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reisberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be chatting with people from different ages, backgrounds, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Jessica Libor, artist coach, gallery owner, and curator. Please enjoy Jessica Libor. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Jessica Libor. She is an artist coach, gallery owner, and curator. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Mari.
You are so welcome. And I am so excited to chat with you about creativity. But before we get there, if you would take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, it would be my pleasure. Thank you so much. So I'm so excited to be here. So I knew I was going to be an artist. It was my earliest memory. And so I've just always kind of known I wanted to be an artist, and that's taken a couple of different forms throughout my life. At first, I wanted to be a children's book illustrator, kind of like Tasha Tudor or Beatrix Potter. That's my first inspiration. As a child, but then I discovered the illustrations of N.C. Wyeth and the whole Wyeth family. The Brandywine Museum is right around the corner from me in Pennsylvania. So I kind of grew up in that area. And so I was very passionate about those amazing works. And that kind of was like a different direction than the Beatrix Potter influence. So it got me interested in oil painting and constructing multi-figure paintings and the gallery world. So it kind of opened my eyes to that in high school. And then I definitely wanted to go through that in college. So I have my master's degree in painting from the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. I've also spent some time training at the Florence Academy of Art in Italy and the Grand Central Atelier in New York. So I'm very classically trained. But I try to also incorporate some like more modern colors and more fantasy element to my work as well. And I paint right now about the feminine experience and also like how that relates to nature, because there's people think of nature as like Mother Earth as like a very feminine thing. And so a lot of my paintings have female figures interwoven with nature. So that is a big part of it, as well as the influence of fairy tales. I love fairy tales because of their historical context and because of the deeper issues that they actually touch on that apply to most cultures. And so, all those things go into my work. So that's my art. And then I also am an artist coach. So I have been out of school for, I think, 8 years now. And it has been a journey about just finding my way to become an artist, emerge as a professional artist, and make a living, support myself through my art. And I feel really comfortable that I'm doing that right now, but it's been such a journey, and I really had to figure it out. I had to work with business coaches, life coaches, and really figure out as a creative how to sustain this lifestyle that I wanted to live. And so through that experience, I really wanted to help other artists when I felt like I was comfortable enough to think about like other artists and not just survival. I thought, wow, I feel like I can help people, help other artists who were in exactly the same position as I was when I graduated art school. Like, I don't know what to do next. I guess I'll just get a day job, and really just trying to figure it out. So I created this course. It's called the Luminary Artist Academy, and it's specifically for female contemporary realist painters.
Hmm.
Although other kinds of painters also take it. But I just write from my perspective, and the course is created kind of for that niche. But any kind of artist, it would be valuable for. And it's a 6-month course. It includes coaching with me, and it's for transforming and elevating your art career from the inside out. So I do that. So that's my second thing. And then my third thing is I have a gallery. It's called Era Contemporary, and it was kind of the brainchild of wanting to exhibit with my amazingly talented friends from art school that I knew. And so I created this entity where we would do pop-up shows throughout the area. So we've done a lot in Pennsylvania, and then we've done one in New York City pre-pandemic that was like really amazing, very successful. And we're actually working on one now that we're partnering with NASA. And yeah, it's really amazing. So it's called Legends of the Moon, and anyone can submit to it. And the people who are accepted, the artists who are accepted into this exhibition, their art will be digitally cataloged and sent to the moon on a time capsule through something called the Lunar Codex, which is like an arts and culture project through NASA. Somebody that I'm connected with, I have a connection there. So we're doing that. It's going to be a physical exhibition here in the fall. And then the digital copies will be sent to the moon. So that's basically all the things I'm working on right now.
I love it. And oh my gosh, as you were talking, and so many questions came up when you were talking about classically trained painting. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've never thought of painting as having the like classically trained. I think of that in terms of like theater and dance and music. But so it makes total sense that there is that genre in painting as well. Yeah. And then when you were talking about, how to sustain a career as an artist, you were speaking my language. Having gone to theater school, I do very similar work with actors and performers and non-performers around sustaining creativity. But that experience of how to take all the things you just learned and the craft and make a career that's sustainable from it. Yeah.
Right.
And then so many cool things with your gallery and the pop-up shows, and sounds amazing. But what were you going to say? Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, with sustaining creativity, you just have to, you got to figure it out, because no one's going to figure it out for you. It's not like you have, like an HR department or something to figure it out for you. You just have to, you have to figure out what works for you and how to keep a schedule that you're going to be able to do like consistently and really in a way that will help you to keep the faith and keep that joy and creativity. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh my gosh. 100,000,000% agree.
Yes.
Yeah. When you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I was thinking about this, and I have a really precise definition, actually.
Great.
Yeah. So when I think of creativity, I define creativity as finding a new solution out of existing elements.
Ooh.
Like combining them to find a new solution out of already existing elements, or imagining a new future, whether that be a project, a painting, or a life path, and making decisions that bring that imagination into reality.
Yeah. So great. That's amazing. When you, oh my gosh, the imagination and all those pieces, that definition, do you feel that, or I guess, how does that show up in your own life?
The imagination, oh my gosh, it's such a big part of my life. I've actually I like truly make time for it. I mean, you have to, right, as a creative, but especially as a visual creative, well, any creative, but I really make time to try to generate new images in my mind. So over the years, I've noticed when I start to get ideas, and it tends to be times when my mind is kind of like a little bit offline. So when I'm not
Mhm.
doing analytical thinking
Mhm.
about like this has got to go there in a piece, and or not like doing emails to somebody or thinking about what shows I'm going to apply to, it's usually times when I'm like totally absorbed in an activity,
Mhm.
like running,
Yeah.
or even like taking a bath, taking a shower,
Yeah.
going swimming. Um, Also meditation. I get a lot of ideas while meditating.
Mhm.
Will just like come up and like arise into my brain, like as fully formed images. And I always just make sure to keep a sketchbook around so that I'm able to jot
Mm.
those down, because they are fleeting, and
Mhm.
I'll forget them if I don't write them down. I get a lot of ideas from my dreams too. So sometimes I'll wake up with like a really interesting visual, and I'll write that down. So that's how I try to harness that imagination
Mhm.
into something that I can really progress with in my art.
Nice. When you talk about meditation or mindfulness, was that something that they talked about in art school, or is this something kind of after art school you brought
Mm,
into your own artist life?
That is such a good question. And it definitely, I've just discovered it the last couple of years, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't do any of that in art school. And I started meditation just for like anxiety.
Mhm.
But then I realized that it was having such a positive effect on my
Mm.
own visualizations and ideas as an artist. And so now I do meditation in general, but then I'll do like separate meditations for like generating creative ideas.
Mhm.
With like, I'll sit down with like a 10-minute meditation intention of like visual creativity and just see what images come up.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll use music. Um, and sometimes I'll just have silence, but it's really interesting. And yeah, definitely something that I've just discovered in the last couple of years.
I love it. And I mean, so important to have that type of freedom and play and
Yeah.
ability to generate ideas or images. And I
Mm.
love the just the opportunity to really set that intention within your creative practice and have it really be a practice that
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is something that you continue to come back to. I'm
Mhm.
making assumptions about this and my own
No,
like
you're right though.
mindfulness and meditation practice. But
Yeah.
yeah, being able to have those moments where you're setting that intention of generating new ideas or new
Mhm.
images. And do
Mhm.
you think it would have been helpful in art school to do it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think I was a bit like, I was so externally focused in art school. And I
Mm,
think this happens to a lot of artists. Like you
yeah.
get focused on like the performance and the end game aspects of it. Like
Mhm.
I could imagine for you, like, performing a show or like getting an
Yeah.
award or something like that. And
Yeah.
for artists, it's similar, like having a big solo show being written about by like some
Right.
amazing art critics and like getting all this acclaim. And I feel like I was really externally focused then.
Mhm.
And it took me a while to realize that those external things, while they're great and they do help your career, they're
Sure.
actually just markers um, for an internal state. So you can experience feeling proud
Right.
about your work without anybody else telling you that you're
Mhm.
proud about, that your work is worthy. So you have to
Yeah.
like, you can experience all those emotions
Mhm.
without having other people tell you that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, such a great reminder for
Mhm.
anyone, whether they're an artist or not, that you can have tiny celebrations that are just
Yes.
for you, that it's
Yes.
your moment of celebratoriness
Mhm.
that doesn't
Absolutely.
require or need anyone else. And they're just as important and maybe more important
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. And I would say that like if you don't have that practice, then you're at the mercy of the
Mm,
world, and the world can be fickle. But
yeah.
if you're always there for yourself as a creative, then I think that your work and your art career will stand the test of time.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I agree. I think it's so important. Oftentimes, people find themselves looking outside of themselves for inspiration, or, scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
And how do we, bring it back to that internal space, to what
Mhm.
really fuels us and brings us joy and
Absolutely.
happiness? Yeah. Well, I imagine it's not all sunshine and ponies and unicorns and rainbows, that you probably come up against some challenges and the various aspects of who you are as an artist, as a coach, as a gallery owner. What are some of the challenges that you come up against, and then how do you face them?
That's a really great question as well. I can think of two challenges. So the first one is time, and the second one is money. Um,
Ah, yes.
yes. So time is always, I feel like we always want more time. And especially as creatives, like I feel like I have
Mhm.
so many ideas that um I don't know if I can like execute them all. Um, at least
Yeah.
not to the ability that I want to, because
Mhm.
everything takes time. So time for me is a challenge, and I have tackled that challenge by really getting intentional with my schedule, and
Mm.
just so I use Google Calendars, um, and I used to use a paper calendar. I love paper calendars, but I was like erasing it so many times that I
Yeah.
switched to a digital, just so that I could understand what was going on.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I use a calendar and I check it every single day. And I schedule out everything that's happening in my life, months in advance, so that I know exactly what I'm doing. And then as a creative, you don't have anybody breathing down your neck or like giving you checklists. So you have to create those for yourself. And
Mhm.
you know, one day being like a painting day, one day being like outreach to galleries and collectors day, one day
Mhm.
being, gathering art supplies and preparing them for like your next
Mhm.
painting, stuff like that. So you have to be a little bit more organized in order to harness your time. And so
Mhm.
that's something I've really learned, especially over the last 2 years, I would say.
Mhm.
I've gotten better at it. And then money. So money is the other challenge, because in a perfect world, creatives would just have an unlimited funds, just because people just want to support us, and we would have like um, tons of patrons all the time. But the reality is, especially starting out, a lot of artists don't have that.
Yeah.
And so for me, building that up was I was very intentional about it.
Mhm.
And I learned from other people in the industry who knew what they were doing, and I could see their success.
Mhm.
So for me, building like a list of people who are interested in my work, I was very intentional about building that, and then also keeping relationships with collectors so
Mhm.
they come back for more, and it becomes like a lifetime relationship. Like I have two collectors, a married couple, and they've bought over 30 of my pieces.
Wow.
And they have a couple houses, and so um that they have like the wall space, and
Yeah.
but if I hadn't made the intention to like get their email the first time I met them at a random art show,
Mhm.
then none of that would have happened, you
Right.
know? So yeah, that's what I help teach artists to do in my academy, is really to harness both of those things.
Mhm. Time and money for
Yeah.
so many reasons, whether
Yes.
you're creative. And I think artists get a bad rap about the time piece, because I think there's this preconceived notion that, oh, artists are so, you just paint whenever you have
Yeah.
all of that. Like when the creative bug bites you, you
Yes.
go. But to
Mhm.
hear that there's so much more structure in it than I think the general population
Mhm.
understands or even could imagine,
Mhm.
that it is, there's so much intention that goes into it in
Yeah.
how you
Yeah,
explain that.
definitely. I mean, it is different. Like when I think about like when I painted in high school or even college, just like it was just so free flowing and fun. And it's still
Mhm.
free flowing and fun. And it feels like such an escape still.
Yeah.
But before I do that, and kind of like the rituals and the preparation that goes into every piece is
Mhm.
different now because I have a business,
Mhm.
and so I have to be mindful of my time and be mindful that I want to leave room for other things like going out to eat and meeting friends and having a life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm so curious, this balance between being creative and or the balance when your creativity is a career,
Hmm.
and how you keep that creative spark alive
Mm,
when it's also your career.
that's a great question. I've found within myself that um, I can get really creative when my to-do list is done.
Mm.
So it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like you
Yeah.
have to like make sure everything is okay, and then you can just like let loose.
Mhm.
So creativity, for me, I think of like painting, like in the studio for hours. And for me, that happens when, after the morning when I've like emailed back people who are inquiring. It's
Yeah.
like you do the hard stuff first, and then you have this beautiful time where you can let loose. And I'm able to enjoy that because I know that I'm not leaving any loose ends.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
absolutely.
cleaning up your room before you go to bed. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe, maybe I'm weird like that, but yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, coming back to that intention that there are these choices and
Yeah.
there are things that need to happen in some order to make sure that everything that, the business side of things is also being attended to as much as the creative painting side is as well. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I love it.
Thank
When
you.
um, I imagine working with other artists and painters, there are times where you come across someone who feels like they're not creative or they've lost their creativity. How do you, or how would you encourage someone to find creativity in their life?
Hmm. I think that everyone is creative. Like even the people who say that they're not creative, or people who are in jobs like an accountant or something,
Mhm.
I find like after getting to know them and finding out more about their lives, there's always some part of it that's like a creative outlet. So I think it's a natural human thing. Like, um, absolutely. And it's been going on for millennia. I mean, think of like the cave drawings.
Mhm.
Like it's natural, like it's within us. So I think that first of all, acknowledging that every human is creative, and
Mhm.
that doesn't have to be expressed by drawing. You don't have to be Michelangelo. It can be so many different things. It can be gardening, or design, or theater, or writing, or so many different things. There's so many different subgenres. So I would say I would encourage creativity by really leaning into it and not being afraid of it, not being afraid to be a beginner,
Mhm.
and make a little time every day to be creative. I recommend putting on some music and
Mhm.
discover what you love to create. And if
Mhm.
you're already an artist and you're already creating, then make the commitment to make time to honor your creative practice as something that's really important, because
Mhm.
the world needs what you have to show them.
Such great reminders. I'm struck by, you reminding people it's okay to be a beginner. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, in your own life, are there any creative endeavors that you are a beginner at, that you're just
Yes.
starting?
Yes. I have a secondary passion. I like acting actually.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Yes. So I've been taking acting classes like on and off for years.
Mhm.
And I find that I think it's a really exciting and interesting um, thing. And it really gets me out of myself.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call myself a great actor, but I think it's a really interesting thing. and it just gives me joy and pleasure. And I just like being a tiny part of that world right now. So, I like write my own scripts sometimes, and I perform them like in class, but I haven't done anything, like been in anything like a play or a film or anything in a while. Well, first of all, because of the pandemic, but that's something that I feel like I'm more of a beginner in, but I like that challenge. I like that edge. And
Yeah.
I like being a beginner in some things. It makes you realize you're still like, you can still learn,
Yeah. Nice. I love it. I mean, just the curiosity and so much creativity, and that it's okay to be a beginner in things, and it can
Yeah.
still be fun and joyful and not the end of the world if you're a beginner. Like, I think we don't celebrate being a beginner enough, or being the amateur. You don't
Mm,
always have to be the professional. It's
it's
okay to
so
be
true.
an amateur.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
this has been such a fun chat. I just have one last question.
Sure.
What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Uh, it feels like release. It feels
Mm.
like, um, it's gonna sound weird, but I feel beautiful when I create.
Mm, that not
Um,
weird at all. I love it. I mean, it's your experience.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel elevated. I feel like I am transcending the physical aspect of life and going to another plane. And
Mm.
it's kind of like a ethereal experience to me. Yeah.
Oh, I love all of that. That's amazing. And it makes me want to like flex that painting space and
Yeah.
like feel that
Do
that
it. Yes.
ethereal space. Why not? It's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
if people want to learn more about your art, your coaching program, things that you do, how could they go about doing that?
Sure. You can find me at I have three websites. One is jessicalibor.com. So that's just my artwork.
Mhm.
And then there's also the Visionary Artists Salon, all one word, the Visionary Artists Salon and .com. And that is my courses and coaching. So I have like art courses as well as like coaching courses.
Mhm.
And then ericontemporary.com is the gallery. If you have artists out there who want to submit to the show, the Moon Show, um, yeah, so you can check me out on all those spaces. I'm also on Instagram. If you look up Jessica Libor, you'll find me. That's my main one, and I have links to everything there as well.
Perfect. And I will put all of that in show notes. So it's very easy to access all of your work. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. It was such a pleasure. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.